Welcome to the Sublime Soiree, everyone. I'm Linda, and we are so excited to introduce you today to our special guest, author Ruth Schleppi Verboom. Ruth has recently published with Moody Publishers a wonderful book called Sunday Evenings with Johnny, Conversations about Life's Chaos and Amazing Grace. Ruth, we're so excited to talk with you about this book because we really loved it. But before we do, can you tell our audience a little bit about yourself?
Thank you so much for having me. It is an honor to be here with you, with both of you. We are an ocean apart, I think,
Yes.
but I'm so glad to spend this afternoon with you. And a little bit about myself. I grew up in a family of seven. I'm the youngest. My
Okay.
mother, my strong and poor mother, had seven children in 9 years.
Wow.
And right. And she ran a tight ship. Both of my parents did. And the house was she was very strict, but
Mhm.
it was also very warm, a very warm nest, and in which God and faith and community were the centerpieces
Mhm.
of my parents actually started a home church when I was
Okay.
very young.
Yes.
In the morning, Sunday mornings, we had to get everything out of the living room and put those folding chairs in. And my mother would brew big and large pots of coffee for after the
Mhm.
service, and the
Mm.
church was in our house for many, many years. Yeah.
Oh, neat.
Ruth, welcome. I'm Sue, and we are so excited to have you here. We want to talk about this book. It's a wonderful book on conversations and moments with your longtime friend, Johnny Erickson Tata. You in this book talk about some of your conversations where you share about suffering, life,
Mm.
hope, and some of the difficult things of life. Can you tell us, first of all, for some of us who don't know Johnny, maybe a little bit about her and her story, and maybe what drew you together and how these Sunday evenings began?
Oh, yes, definitely, definitely. Because Johnny is, for if you don't know Johnny, Johnny is a woman who almost 60 years ago, she broke her neck
Wow.
down here. And she lived at quadriplegia since then in a wheelchair. She needs lots of help with her physical disabilities. And during that time, she was only 17, so young, ready to go to college when that happened. And there was so much hopelessness and depression and anger and
Mm.
not understanding and not agreeing with the new situation that she was in. But somehow, or I shouldn't say somehow, because I know how, with God, she
Mm.
turned her questions and her difficulties
Mm.
into a life that has been so remarkable with her steadfast faith and
Mm.
has been an inspiration and an encouragement to so many people around the world,
Yes.
Mm,
including me.
mhm.
Yes.
When I was 17, um, I, I, I heard Johnny for the first time speak.
Okay.
Mm.
And I remember that was in the Netherlands. I'm from the Netherlands and I lived there then. And I remember that I saw her and I was so intrigued by her beauty. It
Mhm.
was just stunning. And I didn't see the wheelchair or I didn't really notice the disability.
Mhm.
And it wasn't all her outer beauty. She's beautiful, but that wasn't what I saw. But what I really saw was, I think it was the relationship she had with Jesus that was
Mm.
so personal and so fulfilling.
Yes.
Mhm.
And I was young, I was 17, and I knew that I wanted what she had because it was
Mhm.
just stunning to me.
Mm.
Yeah.
So, from the very first pages of the preface, you really drew me in, Ruth, because you have a real gift for storytelling. And I honestly felt like
Mm.
I could hear your voice before I ever heard you utter a word. It was just familiar. I felt like I was just kind of sitting across the table having coffee, and you were just sharing with me about these wonderful visits that you had with Johnny. But when you talked about Johnny's 80-20 prayer approach, that really stopped me in my tracks. I found
Mm.
myself after reading it just being transformed in the way that I would meet with God in the morning. I felt like I was coming to him with a different heart posture of greater joy and greater gratitude. just thinking about Johnny's example and the way that she would approach each
Mhm.
day. So, could you share with our audience what that 80-20 prayer approach is?
Oh, yes, I'd love to, because that is one of my favorite things now. And
Yeah.
thank you, Linda, for saying that about my writing,
Yes.
because I was aiming for that, that I wanted to be with girlfriends amongst each other. Like I was
Yeah.
sitting with Johnny and spending time and being vulnerable and open. I also wanted that with you and with all the readers who would read the book, that it was a vulnerable and honest time together and
Yes.
with the Lord.
Yes.
Mhm.
And the 80-20, I remember it was a very difficult time in Johnny and Ken's life.
Okay.
She, I told you about the quadriplegia and her disability, in her
Mm-hmm.
physical disability, but then she also has chronic pain,
Mm.
lots of chronic pain. So her body, which doesn't do anything for her, gives her a lot of pain every
Mm.
day. Um, so she's dealing with the chronic pain. She had breast cancer twice, and it came back, and she had to deal with that, pneumonias, hospital visits, and hospital stays.
Wow.
So she went through a lot, and our bodies are more able to jump back
Yes.
from that, but her
Yes.
body is hurting and is tired. And then
Mm-hmm.
she had COVID.
Oh,
Mhm.
And
wow.
I remember I was so upset. I was so upset with God. I thought, why
Mhm.
give me COVID, but not Johnny?
Yes.
Because she's trying so hard, she's working so hard to stay healthy, and now she has COVID, really? And
Mm.
I had this whole conversation with God,
Mhm.
and I thought, oh, Johnny, I have to ask Johnny when she's a little bit better. I have to ask Johnny if she's angry or if
Mm.
she's done with it now. So I
Mm-hmm.
asked her, I said, Johnny, be honest, are you done? Are you angry now? Are you having this discussion with God?
Mm-hmm.
And she just looked at me and just like smiling and no, not really. And it wasn't like an ignorant or naive smile, but more she she told me, she said very early on, Ruth, I learned to pray 80-20, in which 20% of my prayer time is about the problem.
Mm.
And the whole 80% is about other things away from the problem towards God. So,
Mm.
what do you want to teach me? How can I grow in this? How can I help others, even in
Mm.
this situation? Or
Wow.
how can I learn and not miss out on who you are in
Yeah.
this?
Mhm. Mhm.
That was so new to me. So I
Yeah.
felt the same as you, Linda, when I heard it
Yeah.
from the first time. It was so new to me. It was, and I told her, I said, Johnny, that's the world upside down, because 200% of my prayer life is about me and my
Uh-huh.
problems. And
Mhm.
then I say amen and I pick it up again and I start all over again. And to only have 20%, I was even calculating it like, oh, so if it's one sentence, I can only spend one sentence on my problem and four
Wow.
sentences about other things.
Yes.
And it was an adjustment. But
Mm-hmm.
I must say that my prayer life got so much more exciting. I'm looking forward to my prayer time, because now it's not so much about the problem and what needs to change and why, God, and why don't you change it or whatever. It's not so dreadful, I guess, but it
Mm-hmm.
is. I'm sitting with him
Right.
and I'm listening with him,
Yes.
listening to him. And sometimes it's just quiet, but then I'm sitting with him, and my perspective, my mindset changes and moves away from myself, my feelings, and my circumstances. Not neglecting, because I've addressed those,
Mm-hmm.
but then I move away from it and I move towards God. And what happens is the peace that goes beyond our
Yeah.
understanding
Mhm.
is there. It
Yes.
just is present. The
Yes.
peace and also the perspective or the insight
Mhm.
that God will give me of the situation. There's almost like a distance from the situation, and I'm looking at it from his perspective.
Mhm.
And that has changed so much in my life, in my personality, in how I deal with things, but also in my inner peace. Yeah, I was so excited about this when I first learned this. I was telling my friends about it, and I thought, oh, I need to remember this. So how can I during the day remember how to pray like this? So I designed a little necklace with 80/20 on it, and every time I thought I always sit with my necklace or play with my necklace. So I have this necklace 80/20. I don't know if you can see it, but it says 80/20. And then when I wear it, I'm just holding on to it. And
Yes.
my son even, he says, Mom, it says he's wearing it. My son is wearing it too. So he says it's such a different way of prayer. And I love that to remember the 80/20. Yeah. That
That's
Johnny taught me.
And there's something special that you do with that necklace, correct? You have designed it and it's available for people to purchase, but the proceeds go to a special place.
Yeah, correct. This necklace inspired me to design a whole jewelry line. And they all have a story about the goodness of God. So each piece will come with a card. This is the explanation of the 80/20.
Oh, wonderful.
Okay.
And then it comes in a beautiful box, everything together with the explanation, and also the other jewelry have different explanations, but they all bring us back to the goodness of God, reminders of the goodness of God. And for the 80/20, all the proceeds of the 80/20 go to Johnny and Friends, the organization that Johnny founded and helped so many people around the world with disabilities.
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely. That is such a wonderful ministry of Johnny's and fantastic. That's
Definitely.
something I want to get.
And a wonderful word to remind us even this morning,
Yeah.
the 80/20.
Mhm.
One thing that struck us, Ruth, when in your writing was just this incredible ability to not only share Johnny's wisdom, but also her vulnerability in the messy moments. This book is about choosing gratitude in life's difficult circumstances. And I know your time with Johnny was rich. You had a lot of conversation. How would you say that she pointed you to Jesus, her and her husband, in that time that you spent together?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, because I think I think with just her life, there were evenings that we didn't talk much, but her life was so full of Jesus. And her connection with Jesus was such a close connection and such a determined connection too. Because sometimes when people ask me, like, what did you learn from Johnny? Or I could write so many things about it, like a million chapters. Or I could summarize it in one sentence, and that is that Johnny's eyes are fixed on Jesus, always. And I tend to wonder, but in everything Johnny does, she knows so much about suffering in her own life, but also the people that she's connected to and has friendships to or is helping. So she knows a lot about suffering. And in that, or probably through that, her eyes are fixed on Jesus because I could see in her life, witness in her life that he's the only hope that we have, or the only solution too.
Right.
Not necessarily to the circumstances, but in the circumstances.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, and just to talk a little bit more about the gratitude, her life is full of gratitude, and Ken's, her husband's life too. And I did notice when I got to know her that it's not that the gratitude was not necessarily the purpose, but having your eyes fixed on Jesus, it's almost like a byproduct of having that different perspectives or having that different perspective and having that perspective away from myself. And I talk about myself, away from myself, my own circumstances, my own feelings. And then even the fruits of the Spirit come to my mind, that it's not necessarily the fruits of the Spirit is not the goal in itself: love, joy, peace, self-control, great graciousness. Yeah, you name them. And I think gratitude is one of them.
Mm-hmm.
It's not necessarily the goal in itself, but it comes organically out of living a life focused on Jesus. And that's what I saw in Johnny's life.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
She was pretty intentional, right? And I know that one of the practices that she did or does is to make a mission statement. And she shared with you how to do that for yourself. And in the book, you even talk about how writing a mission statement saved your marriage and moved you to write several mission statements for your own life. I was wondering if you could share with us what Johnny's mission statement is. And could you also tell us if you are still writing multiple mission statements or if you zeroed in on an overarching mission statement for your own life?
So the mission statement, Johnny wrote a mission statement when she was very early on in her process of being disabled, physically disabled. And her mission statement was to be the best audiovisual representative of God's grace in suffering, in life suffering.
Powerful.
And when I first, so powerful. And when I first heard that, I asked Johnny, I said, Johnny, that is almost setting yourself up for more suffering. Do you regret your mission statement? And then she explained to me that that it was the best thing that happened to her. Her mission in her mission statement, because God proved Himself so graceful and so trustworthy. Yeah, and my own mission statement my first mission statement that I made, it was when my children, I have 4 children, and they were still very young at that time. And my first mission statement was to, with my life, show them that everything is in God's hands, and that He is to be trusted in every situation, and introduce them to God. And that was also, there's a chapter in the book in which I say that she has saved my marriage, which she did by introducing the mission statement to me. And when I made that mission statement, little did I know that a few years later, my husband Helmut and I came in such a difficult period of our lives together, and our communication was so off and we couldn't reach each other, and it was just a very lonely and difficult and hurtful place. And I remember one time that he was also so frustrated, but also there was so little hope in our relationship at that time, because we were only hurting each other and misunderstanding each other. And he said, maybe we should get a divorce, and I will take care of you, I will take care of the children, but maybe you should just leave, or I should just leave. And for me, that at that time, it felt like such a relief, such a freedom to be out of that hurtful situation. And I started to think about how it would be and imagine how it would be without him. And then I thought of my mission statement. And that mission statement was holding me back, I felt, but I couldn't do it because I couldn't face my children when they were a little bit older and asking me, why did you and Papa divorce? After you say that everything is in God's hands, and that God always has a solution, and that God can be trusted. So I went back to God and I said, Lord, I believe that this marriage is yours. And I pray that I will trust that you will take care of my heart in this, and that you will be with us, and that our marriage is in your hands. And I'm not saying that this is the way for everybody, but for me at that time, it was very clearly that divorce wasn't for me at that time. Yes. But now my children are a little bit older, and my mission statement has revolved or evolved. It has become different. And right now, my mission statement is to, in everything that I do, that I will introduce whoever crosses my path, that I introduce God's goodness and God's grace.
Mm.
And that sounds very broad, and it is very broad. But I also realized that that I've brought a broad set of interests. Like I like to create things, I like to write things, I like to cook, I like to set a table and have people over at dinner. So even at my dinner table, making dinner for them, having conversations, and even at the DMV, standing in line, I
Yes.
want to introduce people to God's grace and God's goodness in everything I do. With the jewelry, with the books, with everything.
Yes. That's beautiful.
I love that.
Thank you.
Ruth, Linda and I have co-authored a book on the hospitality of God. And one of the points that we talk about is this idea of suffering and how often with suffering, we are suffering through circumstances and kind of eagerly awaiting smoother days. And yet, maybe there are gifts to glean in every struggle we encounter as preparation for our eternity with God, our communion with God. You write in chapter 5 a quote that I'd love to share with our viewers. For the first time in my life, I think of this. It might not be the pain when the pain is gone or when I am on the mountaintop and carefree that matters, but the true value might be in the time of suffering. Can you unpack that for us a bit?
Yeah, certainly. This was so new to me. But Johnny introduced it to me that because we are so used, or I was so used to having like there are difficulties in life, but we try to get past that as soon as possible.
Right.
And then the things we learn from it, that will be our testimony. So afterward, that will be our testimony. And then we can look back and see what we learned from it and try to avoid that those things will happen to us again. And then Johnny is taking her time in the difficulties. And also because circumstances sometimes we have no say in it. But she's taking her time and she's not in a hurry to get out of it because she's in it with Jesus. And that was new to me because I thought Jesus, for me, it was Jesus would take it away. And then we are going to live this life. We will go on with our lives.
Yes.
But for Johnny, it was, I'm in this with Jesus. And she even explained to me that she, in those difficult circumstances, in the pain, in the disappointment, in the overwhelm of life, in the depression, she has found a deeper intimacy with Jesus, but also a different side of Jesus' personality, of God's personality that she hadn't known or could not have seen if she wasn't in that circumstance. And that was amazing. That I'm still unpacking that myself actually, because it's so large.
Yes.
To understand. It's a lot, but it's a beautiful thing to not hurry past our difficult circumstances, but to trust that God is in it and that He knows and understands every moment of it.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
So what you've just shared now really leads into this next question, and that is you had to wrestle through another really hard statement that Johnny had made to you, where she said that Jesus reveals the weakness in our weaknesses. And before we talk about the seriousness of that statement that Johnny made, I have to tell you that I laughed really hard when I read your postlude to that chapter because you had a conversation about it with your daughter. And I have had very similar conversations with my own young adult children. So you just made me laugh out loud on that. But as you wrestled through that statement that Johnny shared, what deeper truths did that lead you to?
Well, first, I had no clue that she said what she said. Like we were talking about something difficult in my life. I don't even remember what it was, but many of our conversations were about difficulties of both of our lives because that's life, right?
Yes.
And And she is such a good listener. My goodness, she's such a good listener. And oftentimes she would just listen, and then we would do some other routines. I would brush the hair or or brush her teeth or floss teeth or whatever. And then we would pick it up again. And then we would talk about nothing. And then we would pick it up again. And I remember that also of this evening. And then she would say, you know, Ruth, sometimes God reveals the weakness in our weaknesses.
Hmm.
And I thought, what do you mean? But I wanted to find out for myself. And it took me actually more than a year before I found out, because I thought, oh, there's something to it.
Mm-hmm.
And when I understood what it was, the weakness of our weaknesses, it was actually very simple, because the weakness for me, my difficult situation is mountain high, and it's so large and so heavy and so overwhelming, and there's no way around it. But then in God's eye, it's very weak, because he has to do one thing, or he has to hold me, or or he is holding me. And the weakness, that mountain high problem that I'm facing, is nothing. Is in his perspective, it's very weak. It's very little. And you were referring to that, Linda, when you said my daughter walked in, and I was struggling with the weakness and her weaknesses, and I wanted to make it very deep and spiritual, of course, when I was writing this chapter. And she walks in, and I'm explaining it to her, or not explaining. I'm asking her, "What do you think weakness or weaknesses mean?" And she she says it to me, just two sentences, and that was it. Like, oh, the weakness is very weak
Yes.
in God's eyes, and it's just nothing. And I thought, okay. Yeah.
It's funny because when I first read those words, I did the exact same thing that you did, Ruth. I immediately went to what is that? And I was really trying to ponder it instead of just seeing the simplicity of, yes, with God, it's small. Even the grandest things to us are just small in his ability to manage and care and carry us through. So it was just, yeah, really, really great chapter
And
and
I think
really
that
great
is also
lesson.
what brings us all back to Johnny's 80/20.
Yes.
Because if we
Hmm.
keep looking
Good
at that
point.
weakness in our life, then it's so large.
Yes.
And if we steer away from that, it's very weak. It's a weak weakness.
Yeah.
Weaker than weakness.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Um, your book is also, you talked about this actually earlier, so I'm going to probably ask you to repeat yourself, but you talk through the book about so many lessons. There are just so many beautiful lessons to glean from your conversations with Johnny. And really lessons that you learned outside of those conversations with Johnny too. But you ended up summarizing it in one statement, and I think you already have shared what that statement is. And you also talked about this idea of a rope in our interactions with God. Can you remind us again, what was that one statement that summarizes Johnny's life? And then also, what is that rope analogy that you two talked about?
Yeah, sure. So let me read the statement in the book. Um, I'm talking in one of the last chapters about how Johnny's line, I call it the rope to God, is very short, and
Okay.
my rope is very long. It's tangled and it's messed up, and it goes everywhere. And
Mm-hmm.
Johnny's rope is this short. It's like right away something happens and she's there. So let me read that statement. So when I compare my rope to Johnny's, I realize the length of the rope is not up to Jesus. He is there no matter what. Nor is the length of the rope about you and your circumstances. But the length of the rope, the time it takes you to bring it all to God, depends on where your mind is and how you care for your rope. The more your mind is set on the things from God, the shorter and stronger your rope will be. And the more I let myself be distracted by everything else, the more stretched out it becomes. The rope grows longer and weaker. Yeah.
That was so good.
Mhm.
Just a good reminder of going immediately to Jesus.
Yeah.
And just, yes, that's the most important relationship for sure. Ruth,
Definitely. Yeah.
thank you so much for your time with us today and writing this wonderful book. How would our audience get in touch with you? What's the best way to do that? And do you have any other things you want to share, any encouragements with us before we close our interview?
So I do have a blog on which the news of the book, I put it there and I write my blogs, and I also sell the jewelry, the 80/20 and other pieces on the same website. And the website is www.ruthsverlee.com.
Okay.
Friends, we will link that in the show notes below as well. Thank you so much, Ruth. And friends, we believe this book would be a wonderful Christmas present.
Yeah.
Or a present for yourself any time of year. So please pick up a copy of this book. We were so encouraged when we read this book, Ruth, and we believe that you will be encouraged too. In the meantime, friends, we do pray that your week is sublime and that you live each day free above the fray. Thank you and
Merry
Merry
Christmas.
Christmas.